I'm Alan Hahn. This is SportsCenter right now. A lot of money in the NBA handed out last night. Nugget star Nikola Jokic, he agreed to a 5-year, $270 million Supermax extension, Keyshawn. Jokic, the two-time reigning MVP in the league, now secures the Nuggets for a total of 6 seasons for, get this, $303 million. That's baseball money. He became the 15th player to win at least 2 MVP awards in the career, and the 10th to win them in back-to-back seasons. More money, more money. How about Ja Morant? He agreed to a 5-year extension worth up to $231 million with the Grizzlies. Remember, he made the All-NBA second team, so he's guaranteed $193 million, but will trigger a Supermax escalator to take the deal to $231 if he gets another All-NBA selection. More money. Suns guard Devin Booker, he got a 4-year, $224 million extension. His deal begins in 2024-25. He still has 2 years left on his current deal. So that brings his total contract value to 6 years and $295 million. Booker became the face of the Suns franchise since being drafted 13th overall by Phoenix in the summer of 2015. It included leading the Suns to the NBA Finals in 2021 alongside Chris Paul. Now he's officially tethered to Phoenix throughout the 2027-28 season. SportsCenter, presented by Progressive Insurance. Get a business insurance quote online in as little as 6 minutes. Visit progressivecommercial.com.
Kevin Durant, I believe he's the best in the world.
The Miami Heat have a lot of big salaries that can be used to facilitate, in addition to some interesting young players.
The KD thing is just not realistic. The Lakers don't have enough assets.
He wants to be in Phoenix. That's his number one choice right now.
All right, it's Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Alan Hahn in for Max, ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, ESPN2. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Key, I just gave you just a little taste of the money that was given out last night. Over $1 billion to 5 players. I didn't even tell you about Bradley Beal and his $251 million contract he signed with the Wizards. You see all this money. Does it make you smile? I see a smile on your face.
It's monopoly money, man. They playing games. It's so wild to think back and just go back and think about some of the great players in the NBA that if they were playing today, what the money would look like. I'm just thinking, what would Shaq get? Yeah. Like, what would Kobe get?
What would the captain be worth?
Right? What would Jordan get? They would have to sell a team to pay him.
They'd have to give him ownership. But as we talk about players who are signing with teams they want to be in these places, the biggest story of all is the player who doesn't want to be in his place anymore, and that's Kevin Durant, who has requested a trade from the Nets. This is after the Nets didn't give Kyrie Irving a full max extension. Instead, he picked up his option, and Kevin Durant said, you know what? I'm done. To get more perspective on this, let's bring in Frank Isola. Of course, he is on SiriusXM NBA Radio. He has the morning show with Brian Scalabrine. He does a great job there. And also you see him on ESPN platforms. Frank, good morning. How you doing?
Good. These NBA scouts clearly weren't paying attention to you guys playing basketball at the South Street Seaport. Keyshawn should have gotten 3 years, 50 from somebody. If other guys are getting $200 million, Keyshawn could get 50 at least.
Yeah, just to stand around, Frank. That would be wonderful. If whoever gives me that, I would thank. In fact, if they gave me 50, I'd give them 40 of it back.
That's
See,
right.
you're a good guy. You're a generous man.
How big of a surprise? I can't imagine it was for you because you're so close to it. You saw it. I always say with there's smoke, there's fire. Did you see this coming with Kevin Durant making a trade request?
You know what? I wasn't surprised by it because everything was way too quiet. And then you were, talking to people, and they said the Nets were making calls around the league, and the idea that all these teams were monitoring the situation with Kyrie Irving and the fact that it would happen. It's amazing how quickly everything has moved. And I think, it's funny, you guys are mentioning the contracts that guys signed, and I always thought one of the more underrated stories last year was Kevin Durant signing up for 4 years. But I think the way the players are going to do it now is let me get my money, and then further down the road, I'll worry about where I'm going to play, because if I need to move, I'll just try to force my way out. And that's clearly what Kevin Durant is doing. But when you think about, he didn't play his first year. The second year was really their year. I mean, they were in a great position. Harden was playing well. Kyrie was playing well. They had the 2-0 lead on Milwaukee. I thought they were the best team. It didn't happen. And obviously this year, was a disaster. And I also think the Golden State Warriors winning, I think that has an impact on Kevin Durant. He's trying to make it seem like, oh, it's a big deal. Big deal. They won without me. You cannot tell me that he's thinking, man, they won without me, and I've only won one playoff series since I left Golden State. I need to get to a better situation where I could try to win another title.
Frank, let me ask you this, though, right? You say Golden State played a part in this, even though it wasn't direct. It was indirect in Kevin Durant's mind. But if you're Kevin Durant, right, Frank, and you leave Golden State to go do it on your own, why not continue on that quest with the Brooklyn Nets? Even if Kyrie wants to leave, bring somebody in to help you, or instead of going to join the Phoenix Suns.
And Keyshawn, I think that's how I look at it. And I think this is one where I think he's going to get heavily criticized. He'll say that he doesn't care about it. But the reason that you left the Warriors, it's wild. He left Oklahoma City, a team that nearly beat the Warriors. He went to the Warriors, and he had unbelievable success there. There's no denying it. 2 MVPs in the finals. He comes to Brooklyn, and it hasn't worked out yet. And really, the reason it hasn't worked out is Kyrie hasn't been available enough. And Kevin Durant has dealt with injuries too. Let's be fair, but it hasn't worked out because Kyrie's not available. He's only played 103 games. You guys know the numbers. Missed 123. That's more on Kyrie. You did bring in Ben Simmons. You got to get Joe Harris back. I agree with you. Why not try to do it the old-fashioned way? Have your front office try to go out and get some guys. And if you play in 65 games next season and you're healthy, let's remember the Nets were in first place before Bruce Brown rolled into Kevin Durant's knee, and then he had to miss all that time, and then they had to fight to get into the playoffs. And remember this too about Kevin Durant, who was great when he played last season. He was not great in the playoffs. That's not to say that he's done or his career is changing, but he had a poor playoff. The year before, he was outstanding in the playoffs. The 4 games against Boston, he just did not have a Kevin Durant type of standard playoff.
We're talking with Frank Isola, SiriusXM NBA Radio, the starting lineup in the mornings, and also you see him on ESPN platforms as well, talking NBA. Key and I both have talked about how for Kevin Durant, obviously, and the impact it's going to have on his legacy. You just talked about that, how this is going to look for him. But the decision by the franchise, they could have easily just caved in. They could have easily said, all right, we don't want to upset Kevin. Just give Kyrie the money. Let's just, take Advil and we'll get through this. But it's better than being irrelevant, right? Having these kind of players and just banking on maybe 1 year they'll just get it right and we can get a championship, then it's all worth it. They clearly were not willing to do that. Is that courage shown by Sean Marks and Joe Tsai, or as Key might say, is this a terrible decision by the franchise?
You know what? I think they looked at it as, Kyrie Irving, he's going to break our heart somewhere. We can't pay him. So once they knew that they weren't going to pay him, and I think, look at the guys that opted out of their contracts and what they're going to get. If Kyrie Irving had opted out of his contract, no one's giving him $200 million. The only team that he thought would do that would be the Brooklyn Nets. And I think the Nets had to take a stand. He just doesn't play enough, number one. It's always something. There's always a lot of drama. And let's face it, too. Think about what's happened in the NBA the last few years. Look at what, New Orleans got for Anthony Davis, what the Nets had to give up for James Harden. Look what just happened the other day. 3 first-round picks for DeJounte Murray. So I think the Nets probably knew all along, if one thing leads to another, we do have Kevin Durant under contract for 4 years. So if he doesn't want to be here, we know we can get a lot for him. Let's face it, they're trying to salvage this, but at least they're in a position to salvage it on some level where you're going to get players and picks. You're going to get a big-time haul back for Kevin Durant.
Yeah, but you're not getting Kevin Durant and you're not getting Kyrie Irving. So that 100%. Haul back, we don't even know what that's going to be, right? You might mess around and get who knows. But look, you mentioned, Frank, right? You said there's always something with Kyrie. You and I both in Alan Hahn could agree there's always something. But there was always something 3 years ago when you signed him and you brought him in. Did you honestly think bringing him in 3 years ago, he was going to change who he is and the way he approaches things? Not necessarily from a basketball standpoint, but an off-the-court standpoint. No, he wasn't. So you knew that then. Why change course now? Because